from the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight with Ryan Edwards and Benjamin Allbright.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight as we continue to preview the Broncos versus the Bengals, a huge matchup in the playoff race here. Both teams are 7-6. In the last episode of the show, we talked about the Broncos offense versus that Bengals defense. Today, I think it's appropriate as we go to the Bengals offense versus the Broncos defense. And I really feel like, as we talked to Steve Atwater earlier this week on Broncos Country Tonight, the radio show, it starts with Joe Mixon. He's already got 1,000 yards rushing on the season, 1,036. He's great at catching out of the backfield. He's just an all-around talented running back. And honestly, whatever they do, whatever success they're going to have, it's going to start with him.
Yeah, it does. And that's the Bengals don't have the strongest offensive line, but they do have Joe Mixon, who's a great running back, and he makes and creates plays. And I think we're kind of familiar with seeing that a little bit here in Denver at times. But it does. That is the engine that causes everything else to go. Zach Taylor wants to commit to that ground game. They want to get that run game going. And when they do, they build off play action. They hit you on the deep over, and then they get it out to those receivers, whether that's Chase, whether that's Higgins, whether that's Tyler Boyd. That's how they look to exploit you. Boyd's more the underneath guy. He's more the possession guy.
Yep.
I think he's the more reliable, sure-handed of the three. They use Uzama in that role as well, and they'll run them opposite directions. They'll run Boyd one direction, Uzama the other, and kind of use that. Uzama, we talk about check downs, a lot here in Denver. They don't traditionally check down in that offense. The tight end's running like a 4 or 5 yard route, and that is the check down. So that's kind of innovative in something that they do. And you've got to account for Burrow's legs as well. Even though he had that injury last year, he still can move a little bit when he needs to. The entire passing shell comes off of, they love 11 personnel, they love 3 wide, but it comes off of the run game. It comes off spreading you out a little bit and get that power run going. And when you condense on that, they're going to get one-on-ones, and then they're going to take advantage. And so that's their basic game plan is run at you until you bring other people down to stop it. And when you bring people down to stop it, exploit the one-on-one.
They're such a boom-bust kind of offense in a lot of ways because they're 7th in the league in scoring. They score over 27 points per game, yet they give the ball away 25th in the league, and they've taken 41 sacks. They're 30th in the league in sacks. So there's just so much about this offense, and I think when we turn on SportsCenter, if you haven't really spent a lot of time watching the Bengals, you turn on SportsCenter and you're seeing Jamar Chase running wild, who's already got over 1,000 yards receiving on the season. Higgins has got 800. Boyd's got 611. They've just got receivers all over the place. But as you sort of noted there are some moments here where you can sort of slow them down because they make mistakes. They're going to turn the ball over. The Broncos have been doing a great job inviting those mistakes. Justin Simmons was talking with the media earlier this week, and he sort of talked about that. He said, one of the things we've eliminated some of these big plays over the top, and we've been forcing teams to become one-dimensional. It's funny because the Bengals, in a lot of way, you'd think with all these receiving weapons, they want to be one-dimensional, but that's not really not the case. That's what we just laid out with Joe Mixon. But what it really comes down to is when they are one-dimensional, they make mistakes.
They do, and you can get them that way. If you can shut the run down early with your base package without having to move guys into the box, then that's what happens. You do slow them down. It's interesting because the Broncos' defensive philosophy is they want you to run. They're willing to give up rushing yardage. And like we talk about trying to defend the run, all that kind of stuff, but the Broncos want to put you in negative EPA situations. That's Vic Fangio's thing. Vic Fangio's a big stats guy. He's a big analytics guy, and he wants you doing things that are less likely to get you points. And so he's willing to give up rushing yardage at times. It's kind of, he's a defensive coordinator. He's never going to say that out loud. But the reality is, philosophically, he's willing to cede a little bit of rushing yardage to make sure you can't beat him over the top with the pass game. And so that's part of their thing. So it plays philosophically into a weakness versus strength because Cincinnati's strength is trying to get that run going downhill, and the Broncos' weakness is, we'll give this up a little bit. So if you're able to stop that with your base package, which I think the Broncos can. This offensive line is not that good, and it's not like they haven't had strong rush attacks they've had to slow down before. I think they can. I think they can come after the Bengals, get them one-dimensional, and try and turn them over.
Yeah, and their best games this season, especially on the offensive side of the ball, have been when Joe Mixon is getting some big chunks of yards, and then whether it's through the short, quick pass game or on the ground, and that's what's setting up almost everything else. But if you're slowing them down, and by the way, they're 19th in the league in rushing. So there are games where they get frustrated. You could see it. They get frustrated when the run game isn't happening, and they just start throwing it all over the field, and that's where Joe Burrow starts making interceptions. That's when he takes these sacks, and that's when you can get to him. So look, I'm not trying to frame the Bengals in a way that makes them sound like a bad team. They're not a bad team, not at all.
They're not a bad team. They're just led by their defense. Their offense gets all the glory, but reality is the defense is the better part of the team.
Yeah, right. So, and we spent a lot of time on that, and I think you said those exact words too. That's just the thing, though, is the defense can only catch up so much when the offense is turning the ball over at the clip that these guys are. They're -4 on the turnover margin. Mm-hmm. The Bengals offense is kind of the make or break of this team. You're right that the steady engine of it remains the run game and the defense. But if the offense is clicking, boy, they're blowing people out. Yeah. But if the offense starts to struggle, they take sacks, they get turnovers, this team falls apart because they can only lean on those things so much.
And they spiral a little bit too.
Yeah,
they're not one of those teams that like bounces back from that. They're either good that day or they're not. It's typically how it goes. Joe Burrow doesn't have the highest velocity arm, really doesn't. And that was one of the knocks on him coming out. He doesn't have a big time arm. And so he's not going to just drill the ball out there despite some of the numbers you see. He's not just drilling the ball out there. So there are going to be opportunities for the Broncos and this defense to turn them over and make plays and hopefully get them playing from behind early.
They're good in the red zone, too. I mean, the Broncos are the 8th best red zone defense, and the Bengals are the 8th best red zone offense.
So something's got to give.
Something's got to give here. And so the only thing I bring up with that is sometimes with these teams we say bend, don't break. Well, for the Broncos, that's tend to be how they want to do it on defense. They want to bend, don't break. But the Bengals tend to, once they get to inside the 20, they actually do a pretty good job there. So I don't even know if that's necessarily the case here. I think you nailed it. Try to eliminate the run the best you can. Don't give up the deep plays. My goodness, that is going to be the Achilles heel of this team. It's been that way earlier in the year when the Broncos are giving up the big plays. Those are the games they've typically lost. The Raiders, the Ravens, so on and so forth. Don't give up the big plays. Don't let them gas you in the run. And I think the Broncos are going to be a good chance here.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's really just comes down to fundamentals and basics, and they've got a real shot.
Yep. All right, there you go. That's breaking down the Broncos versus Bengals. Of course, we'll be back next week with a recap of that game. For Benjamin Allbright, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching Broncos Country Tonight.